And welcome back to another episode, guys. I am Brian Greer. You're watching Spectre Flight Gaming, and this is part of Team Spectre. And today we are doing a review of the M12-L Kimogila Fighter. The M12 is new for the Wave 12 and 13 release to Fantasy Flight's X-Wing series. It is part of the Scum and Villainy. In fact, it is the only ship in this wave that will be accompanying the Scum and Villainy faction. So if you are a Scum Flight player, you didn't get as many options as everyone else, but hey, at least you got something. That's something, right? Let's take a closer look at the ship real quick and check out the model and how it looks at a closer pace. What I like about the ship is it looks bulky, large, scummy. It looks like a pile of junk in the term of the Star Wars universe. And I like that. You got the cockpit right in the front. It's got a good look to it. Some blasters. The engines are cool. In fact, the engines from the rear shot are probably my favorite aspect of the ship. You've got a very large center thruster with some side thrusters there. The actual feeling of the ship, it's very smooth on the top. It actually reminds me of a beetle or a bug, like a stink bug. And it's got a very much different feel to it. It's solid feeling, especially when you rub the top of it. It's just a solid, interesting feeling. I could see some really cool alternate art paint jobs done by players on this ship because it just has a very easy top for it to kind of allow for customization. So the terms of the look of it, I think it fits perfectly in the Scum and Villainy faction. And I think it's going to be a good addition to the X-Wing community. Let's take a look at the maneuver dial real quick. I'll have that pulled up on the screen for you. The ship itself is a fairly slow ship, maxing out at speed 3. It has 1, 2, and 3 hard turns, which I always like to talk about when they have a hard turn option. But because this is a slow ship and kind of like a heavy moving ship, it's got hard 1s and 2s. Now, I like the fact it does have at least 1s and 2s that are hard in general, but they are red, so you'll be taking that stress and losing in action. I have always talked heavily about the idea that in an action economy game like X-Wing, anytime that you are losing your actions, you are putting yourself behind. So luckily, this expansion pack includes a card to mitigate that and still be able to do some of the actions and do hard turns. So that's interesting. We'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about the speed of the ship. So obviously in the 1, we have a green straight, white turns, banks, and 3 are in the 1 hards. The 2 is its best turning slot, which is pretty common for most ships. You got greens on the straight and the banks, reds on the hard. The 3 is straight for a green and white across the board for the turns and the hard. You do have a 4K, which is great because it gives you an option to at least turn around. If you want to turn around and still be able to do some actions, you're obviously going to be doing the 3. And that takes a little bit of time, and that's evident that this is a slower ship. But let's talk about what I think this ship is. I think this ship is going to fit a very specific role in the game. And it's kind of a niche ship. I actually consider calling this a sniper ship, a support sniper. And it's because it features the new mechanic, Bullseye. So I'm going to pull up the Bullseye firing arc reference card right here. And it says, when attacking, if the defender is inside your Bullseye firing arc, the defender cannot spend focus tokens to modify dice or evade tokens to add evade results. So this is interesting. You have from the front maneuver pegs going straight out in a straight line, the Bullseye firing arc. I think it's also interesting that the Bullseye identifiers are exactly the same width as the maneuver template. So this could be added in future ships to include Retrocon or titles to add Bullseye mark using this template, this reference card. So that's a really cool feature that they're adding this into the game. But looking at the actual Bullseye arc and the way this ship is made and some of the upgrades, I truly believe that this ship is intended to fly further behind your fleet. So maybe you want to start your fleet, maybe have 2 ships here in the center, put this guy off the side, have this guy do a turn, come in, and then turn in. while the combat's happening in front of you, he's then doing maybe one forwards, trying to target his bullseye, maybe do a little one banks here and there, to kind of utilize him staying further behind and keeping that bullseye arc in line. There are two pilots that really utilize the bullseye arc, and I'll kind of explain more in detail why I feel like this is a sniping support ship more than a fighter, more than anything else. I do feel like it's also a torpedo boat for the Scum faction, kind of fills the role that the Alpha Class Starwing does, but a little worse than the Alpha Class Starwing. I think that's a better gunboat than this one, but it's because it has the added feature of the Bullseye firing mark. So that's the Bullseye. We have an additional reference card that's going to be going on the ship. I'd like to talk about it now before we get to other things that will reference the Bullseye or the reload and jam tokens, because it's important to at least know what they're talking about. So I'll read the reference card now. When we get to them, you'll have a better understanding what those mean. So jam tokens, when a ship has both a jam token and a focus, evade, or blue target lock token, remove the jam token. Then that ship chooses to remove of its one focus, evade, or blue target lock tokens. A ship is jammed if it has a jam token. The jam token kind of looks like a heartbeat if it was on a medical screen. And then we have the reload action. It looks like a blaster bolt with a no symbol going on it. Ships with the reload icon on their action bar may perform a reload action. To reload, choose any number of the ship's equipped discarded torpedo or missile upgrade cards, flip them face up, and assign the ship a weapons disabled token. A ship with a weapons disabled token assigned to it cannot perform attacks. A weapons disabled token are removed during the end phase. So they stay around for one turn. Okay, so let's talk about some of the ships now. We've got two non-unique ships and two unique ships. So let's start with the base model first, so we can get an idea of the ship's stats and kind of where its base model is. We have the Cartel Brute coming in at pilot skill 3, has 3 attack, 1 agility, 6 hull, 2 shields, coming in at 22 cost. The action bar has the focus, target lock, evade, or barrel roll, and reload action. On the equip bar, you have torpedoes, missiles, salvage, Astromech, and the Illicit upgrade option. So this is our base ship for this. Doesn't have any upgrades. I like the fact it rolls 3 dice. Kind of helps with that sniping roll. You can tell it's a slow ship. It's got 1 agility, and it's a 6-2 in terms of the HP. I feel like this ship could have been more, maybe balanced better, a 5-3 option. 5 hold to 3 shields, but it's still okay. It's not bad at 6-2. I just feel like I'd rather have had an extra shield value than the extra hull value. The next ship that we're going to be taking a look at, again, is a non-unique pilot. This is the Cartel Executioner, coming in at 5 pilot skill. All the same upgrades and action bar, other than it comes with an EPT, an Elite Pilot Talent. So if you're looking to put push the limit or veteran instincts or something in that regard, the new saturation salvo, this would be the best target if you're still also trying to remain cost efficient. He comes in at 24 points. So really the EPT and the 2 extra pilot skill are costing 2 extra on this ship. So let's get to the actual unique pilots and talk about kind of that bullseye firing arc. We have Dalan Oberos. We've seen him before. He comes in at pilot skill 7, and he also has the EPT slot in his upgrade bar. At the start of the combat phase, you may acquire a target lock on an enemy ship inside your bullseye firing arc at range 1 to 3. So between this guy and the final pilot, I feel like Dalan is more of the damage dealer. He wants to push damage. So generally, you can use him to, say, barrel roll and focus for your actions. Then when you are preparing to fire, you obviously are going to get your free target lock. The fact he's a 7 helps him with moving last, firing first, especially if you put, say, like veteran instincts on there. And if you're doing the play like I was saying, kind of keeping him further behind, and you've got that range 3 template in front of you, and you've kind of aligned maybe a ship's in your targeting lock, that helps you push damage, because now you're getting 2 actions for free a turn without, say, a push limit or stressing your ship. Now, that helps with the action economy. But the reason I consider this a sniping thing is he's using a really long range ruler to identify its targets. Really, really long, in fact. So range 3 is about to here from where he's at right now. And so you're really positioning yourself in a way that you want to be further behind so that you can acquire the target lock and push your damage. So Dalan, in my opinion, is the more damage-dealing guy of the two because it's an offensive ability. The final pilot we have is Torani Kulda, I believe. 8 pilot skill. Everything's the same. Cost 27. Dalan cost 25, by the way, if I didn't reference that. But this girl costs 27. After you perform an attack, each enemy ship inside your Bullseye firing arc at range 1 to 3 must choose to suffer 1 damage or remove all of its focus and evade tokens. So I like the fact that this is an 8. You can put it up to 10 if you wish. And that'll basically nullify all of your opponent's defensive stats or make them suffer 1 damage. Again, I feel like this is a ship you want to be pushed back a little further. You want to try to position yourself to get that firing arc in line. Because a lot of times ships are going to be jumbling up in the center, and you might have a really good position to get at least 2 ships in line with that firing arc. I do think that this is also a support ship. This seems more support to me than pushing damage. Now, the fact that you are putting away their focus and evade tokens helps you push damage if you are attacking, but it's really helping your other ships clean up the damage if they're at range 1 on your opponent. So I think this is a cool ship. I think it's really nichey though. I'm interested to see what you guys think in flying it. So we have a few upgrades. I've kind of divided these into 3 piles actually. Saturation Salvo is the new EPT. We've actually seen this in another expansion in this wave. So this isn't necessarily totally new, but if you only buy this expansion, it's new to you. So I'll at least read it for you. After you perform an attack with a torpedo or missile secondary weapon that does not hit, each ship at range 1 of the defender with an agility value lower than the squad point cost of the torpedo or missile upgrade card must roll 1 attack die and suffer any hits or critical damage rolled. Now, with the other set that this came with, it felt like it was a gunboat that was just firing a bunch of missiles, and if it misses its target, maybe it hits the other targets. That was kind of the flavor you felt with this. Looking at the upgrade cards for this specific ship, though, I feel like they're building a little bit of a sub-theme, sub-game inside of it that's maybe kind of too cute for its own good. And that is the idea that you can, well, we'll get to all of it, but basically targeting your own ships, hoping you miss to damage all your opponents. So let's continue with that sub-theme, and I'll kind of reference what I'm talking about. The next card that we have is R5TK. And he says, you can acquire target locks on friendly ships. You can attack friendly ships. Wow, why the heck would you ever want to do that? Well, that's a good question. Before we get to too much about why you want to do that, let's go over the next card and kind of talk about this complete sub-theme they've kind of created inside the expansion pack. You have Scrambler Missiles, attack, target lock. So you must have a target lock to use this. Discard this card to perform this attack. If this attack hits, the defender and each other ship at range 1 receive 1 jam token, then cancel all results. So back to the jam. If you jam your opponent, they have to get rid of one of their evades or focuses or target locks. So it kind of slows them down. If they don't have one of those, they're jammed. And if they ever take one of those actions, it automatically comes off. So it helps in the action economy of this game. Again, forcing your opponent to waste their turns or their half turn on getting no value. Very good at that aspect. It rolls 3 attack dice. It's range 2 to 3, costs 2. If it actually hits, you cancel all damage. So it's not a true damage attack missile. It's purely a support aspect, which again goes into why I think this ship's a support role. But if you look at all 3 of these, so I'll have all 3 up, I think the idea of it is, let's say you have a Z95 Headhunter, really cheap ship, the bottom of the barrel kind of guy. You send him on a suicide mission to the center of your opponent's armada, and you target lock him with R5TK, and you fire a Scrambler missile at him, and that jams all your opponents at range 1, and then you saturation salvo, and boom, now you have effectively done 1 damage to everything, and you've jammed them all. That's kind of, to me, the idea of what this sub-theme is talking about. Being able to send one of your ships in to AoE all the opposing ships around you. I think it's really niche. I think it's cute. I don't think it's competitive in any way, but it's fun. There's going to be one guy at your local game store who's going to freaking love this idea, and he's going to try and force it down someone's throat for 2 months before he realizes it doesn't work, and he moves on to the next weird mechanic. If you ever see it happen and believe it's a really good idea, or if you have a build that works with it, I'd love to see it. I think it'd be kind of fun to watch. But that's the sub-theme inside this pack, and I think it's kind of cute. So let's put that to the side. We have a new Illicit upgrade. It is Contraband Cybernetics. When you become the active ship during the activation phase, you may discard this card and receive 1 stress token. If you do, until the end of the round, you may perform actions and red maneuvers even while you are stressed. So earlier I talked about the maneuver template on this ship and how there are lots of reds, especially on the turns and the K turn. And it kind of makes it more difficult to perform some actions that you need to do, because you need to make sure also performing some actions along the way to make sure you're not being too far behind. This helps you do that. I like it. It's a nice fix to some of the slower red ships or red maneuver ships that are obviously scum or can take illicit upgrades. And the fact that you get 2 of them is nice, because you can fly multiples of these ships or multiple scum ships and kind of take advantage of that upgrade. It's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it helps you with that action economy. The last one that we have that's new is obviously the title for the ship, called the Enforcer. It's an M12-L Kimogila Fighter only title. After defending, if the attacker is inside your Bullseye firing arc, it receives 1 stress token. Obviously, you're probably going to throw this onto any of these ships that you fly. You can only have 1 of it because it is a unique title. Costs 1, but again, it's a support role. And I probably wouldn't ever expect you to fly 2 of these in my experience with playing with them. I feel like 1's probably just fine enough. So the title will be good. It increases that support role it's already playing. We have 2 cards that we've already seen before. Again, with the sub-theme, with Dead Man Switch, talking about that sub-theme, you can throw this on to the ship that you're throwing away. When you are destroyed, each ship at range 1 suffers 1 damage. So if you do attack your ship to try to do some AoE damage to your opponent and you don't miss, so that saturation salvo would trigger, and you actually blow your own ship up, Dead Man Switch can effectively help push damage. Now, when does this come into play? Let's say you have a Z95 with 1 HP, 1 hull left, pretty much on the last brink, and his damage dial, the amount he can actually push in damage, is not as high. He's not going to be able to do multiple damages to a bunch of ships. You might be able to push 1 damage. Or with Dead Man Switch on board, you could effectively make his 1 damage be 3 or 4 damage based on how many ships your opponent has by blowing it up yourself. Again, part of that sub-theme, it offers new ways to play the game. It's really up to you if that's something that you want to play with. I personally don't do that, but I also don't play scum. So, Plasma Torpedoes. This is a 4 attack dice, range 2 to 3, it costs 3. It's the only torpedo in the set, and we've already seen one of these before. Attack, target lock, spend your target lock, and discard this card to perform the attack. Obviously, that means you have to use your target lock to use this weapon, so you won't be able to utilize the target lock on the roll. If this attack hits, after dealing damage, remove 1 shield token from the defender. So obviously, this is an opening salvo attack. Before your opponent's lost any of their dice or any of their shields, you want to use this early. It's not good late. At late stages of the game, it's okay. But you want to try to get that extra piece of damage that's included in the card, and it's also why it costs so much at 3 points. Good card, I like it. Definitely useful for those torpedo boats. So that's the Kimogila. What do you guys think of it? Is this a ship that you plan on flying anytime soon, or do you have any lists that you're working on? I'd love to hear it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you're liking what we're doing on the channel, please make sure you subscribe and like. Hope you're having a great day. May the force be with you. If you like what we're doing here, subscribe by clicking our logo or the button below. Don't forget to like and leave us a comment. If you're looking for more great Star Wars content, try one of our other videos. See you next time at Spectre Flight Gaming.